The Playbook for Success was developed by the NACS Coca-Cola Retailing Research Council to give convenience retailers a step-by-step process to grow their sales. As more convenience retailers have started to use the Playbook, it's become clear that a lot of what's in here is also useful to other retailers. The objective today is to give you an overview of all of the work that's been done to develop and validate the contents of the Playbook. It's our hope that it'll prompt you to download each of the 3 reports we'll go through from the Coca-Cola Retailing Research Council website and to put them to work in your own business. What do shoppers say? They say, I'd shop more at convenience stores if it was more pleasant, if the service was better, if the environment was just a little more welcoming. They're telling us that they'd shop more at convenience stores if convenience stores did a better job of delivering on the core needs. All of the research that was done to develop the Playbook led us to see that there is in fact a 3-step formula for growth, and we'll talk through each of those steps. Before going through the steps, however, it's important for every retailer to do a short shopper research survey to see exactly what their shoppers are looking for. The questions are in the Playbook, and we'll go over them at the end of this presentation. But know basically that the survey will generate a score that'll tell you exactly where to start on the 3-step process. If the survey gives you a score of 40% or less, it means you've got to concentrate on the basics, that is, delivering against the core needs. Now, this isn't new news for retailers, but it's been surprising to see how many stores and even some pretty well-run chains don't do this routinely. If the survey generates a score of between 40 and 70%, you've got the basics in place, but you've got room to improve in how you execute against the core business. It may be getting full value out of the broad choice of beverages you offer, or it could be stressing the grab and go. If the survey results show a score of 70% or higher, you're ready to move to new growth platforms in order to attract new types of business. But you only want to do that when the basics are in place and when you're getting everything you can from your core convenience business. What do the studies show? And we did more than 10,000 interviews in this work. They say something that I guess isn't a surprise, but it's important to emphasize, and that is the key is to pay attention to what's important to your customers. Now you have to survey your own customers because the answers will vary. Just a word about the Coca-Cola Retailing Research Council. The mission of the council is to identify big issues facing the business and then do the research that comes up with solutions. We call it research for retailers by retailers. The study that started everything towards the Playbook for Success was published several years ago. It was called Finding the Way Forward, and it really is the foundation of all of what we'll be talking about for the rest of this session. There are a number of lessons that we can pull out of this study. Number one, the way to grow sales is to pay more attention to what's important to your shoppers and not be preoccupied with following the competition. That could actually be a distraction. Lesson two, sometimes how we actually define ourselves confines us. What the research showed was that there are important conventions, basically the way we think about the business, that limits our ability to be creative in serving our customers. And what the research further showed was that it's necessary often to disrupt those conventions in order to make improvements. The third lesson was that there's a pyramid of needs that are important to all shoppers, and that it's critical to start from the bottom and then move up. The foundation of the pyramid are the basics of safety, cleanliness, and hospitality. Two additional sets of needs, however, were a little surprising, at least from the standpoint of shopping in convenience stores and what customers were looking for. They're looking for simplicity and ease, and actually time enrichment, some quality time in the store. Lesson 6, and this is a separate report on the Council website, shows how disrupting basic needs can benefit the business. It's a study of how Speedway ran a 6-month pilot with test and control stores and focused on basically making their stores feel safer to their customers. They did that by changing the light levels, improving visibility both into and out of the stores, and the results were very impressive. After 6 months, the sales of the test stores began to increase. The last lesson that came out of the pilot work was that disrupting conventions around how the store is merchandised can really benefit the business. This addressed the need of simplicity and ease of shopping. The work was done at Rickers, and it also involved test and control stores, and there were 5 solution selling propositions tested. Sales were increased for all the solutions, but probably the most exciting one was the one related to bundling a sandwich, beverage, and a snack. Here sales increased, but they also showed that the sales were being done by white-collar workers on the go, a target market for Rickers. Last year we published the Playbook for Success, but even before the Playbook was published, some of our council members were beginning to experiment with ideas in it. For example, Nice and Easy in New York State began to work in pioneering the growth platform of Female Friendly, making the store an easier place to shop for women. And they have been very successful with that. One of the smaller retailers on the council, Monarch 6040, focused on growth platforms to make the stores more family friendly and actually make them destinations for events. Pretty impressive stuff. Most recently we produced the Get in the Game report, which provides plenty of evidence that the framework in the Playbook for Success does work. Handy Mart, a North Carolina retailer, did a very complete project in documenting the process in the Playbook. They read about the Playbook in a trade magazine and thought, maybe this is a way we could do the shopper research we've always wanted to do but haven't been able to get to. They downloaded the report and actually did the survey and found that they generated some very nice high scores. But even with those high scores, they eventually decided to go back and work on the basics because that's where they thought the greatest potential was for them. If you're at the NACS convention this year, come to the workshop and you can hear more. This was a special project with Max, and we had a consultant 5-1 help us to dig into the opportunities related to basket missions. What we found, and I think it was both revealing and a little surprising, was how differently different stores are shopped depending on the basket missions. And when we looked inside those basket missions, we saw, or at least the merchants at NACS saw, some nice opportunities to increase average spend. At Loaf and Jug, they also did a test to control pilot focused on the female-friendly growth platform. The interesting thing about this study was that they changed no prices, nor did they change the assortment. They just changed the emphasis in the stores. And after about 3 months, the results were very positive in terms of sales that had clear appeal to female shoppers. The folks at Holiday were looking for a way to expand the appeal of their stores and focused on the Fresh Value Fast platform. They weren't satisfied to just work with what was available. They actually partnered with a local food developer to help create an entirely new line of foods and snacks that really rang the bell with their customers. And what they learned was that it attracted new customers and had real appeal for people who historically were their usual customers. So let's take a look at the shopper research in the Playbook for Success. And as I mentioned, it involves only 12 simple questions. Let's take a moment and talk about interpreting the scores after you've done the survey. The focus in the interpretation is on establishing the difference between what shoppers are satisfied with and what they're not satisfied with. So you can see here we actually put emphasis on the satisfied ratings, 9 and 10, and the not satisfied ratings, 1 through 6, but tend to ignore the 7 and 8, which is really the shopper ratings that are indifferent. When you do that, you get a very clear texture of what's important and what's not important to your shoppers. Well, that's an overview of the Playbook for Success, the research that led to it, and the documentation for how retailers are using it today. We'd encourage you to download a copy of the Get in the Game report. That's the final report. And then, if you like what you see, download a copy of the Playbook for Success. And as you get into this, don't hesitate to contact me at our help desk for the Playbook for Success. Thanks very much.